23 after the hour of 6. Good morning again. Good morning again, Trinidad and Tobago, and more so to the students getting themselves ready. Yes, no Zoom classes for now, at least for the Form 1s to Form 3 students and the Standard 5s. They are back out in person, as the Guardian suggested today. It's a bit bittersweet for many. Obviously, excitement galore, but there are those who are still nervous. I want to hear from tutor this morning as to yesterday's happenings and what do they expect in the days, weeks, and months to come. Let me welcome their General Secretary this morning, Ms. KADY BECKLES. Ms. BECKLES, good morning. Welcome to the Morning Brew.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having me. And good morning. Special good morning to your viewing public and all education professionals out there.
That's right. Let me head to the numbers. They always say the scoreboard never lies, and I'm looking at the numbers. Numbers quite impressive in terms of the secondary school attendance yesterday. We're looking at the teacher and students average 84.5 and 65% respectively. That's, of course, 84% for the teachers, 65% for the students. And on the primary school side, 91% of teachers came out and 73% of the students. So it seems that the primary school side, there is indeed a greater push, I would imagine, that is correlated to the exam just around the corner, the SCA. What say you concerning yesterday's numbers and the turnout?
Well, yesterday, tutor officers were on the ground visiting various schools in the different districts. I was attached to the Southeastern District. In terms of turnout of students, you were right, there was a high percentage of students. Our teachers were out there, definitely, right? Some of the complaints that we got in terms of why, from the administration, in terms of why students were not there, were a number of reasons, including no money for transportation. Some of them had to stay at home to look at the younger ones while the parents go out to work, right? Some of them didn't have the money for the uniform, even though some schools had relaxed the uniform need. Some of us, so including adults, would have put on some weight. So that would have required new clothing, of course. So those were some of the reasons that we got for students not turning out. But we were pleased to see our teachers out in their numbers, ready to teach our students as we are back in the face-to-face and where we were pre-pandemic.
Ms. BECKLES, I heard reports, and I want you if you can confirm or refute, of teachers walking out of several schools, namely St. Augustine, and there was another school mentioned where teachers saw for themselves things were not in place and they decided to vacate the premises. Is that so?
I believe that there was a situation of no water in the compound. And of course, as you know, we have an agreement in terms of when there's no water in the school's compound, they give a wait time of 2 hours to have the situation fixed. You know, sometimes it's maybe the pump is just not working. They need to check that, what have you. But you can understand that in a pandemic, you cannot be in a situation where there's no water, right? Because sanitation and sanitizing of the compound is very important, particularly when the students use the washroom. They need to wash their hands.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Can you confirm what schools? Did you get the reports as to what schools the walkout?
Yes, I believe it was St. Augustine and the other school eludes me at this time.
Okay.
But my second VP was out in St. George's, that's the St. George's district, and there were 2 schools there.
Is the rotation scenario a cause for concern when when you look at it, the rotation scenario holistically? Are there some room? Is there room for improvement, really and truly?
Well, based on the percentage of students that could be out per day, schools have they've worked wonders in terms of trying to make the rotation work. what we have seen in some schools, they have a 7-day rotation. So you'd have like the 6s would be out all the time. You would have the 4s and 5s out on alternate days, and then you would have the 1s, 2s, and 3s out, but they are broken up into groups A and B, right? So on average, some students, particularly the lower form, may have at least 2 days per week, depending on what rotation they're using in terms of the days, or, how they count their week.
So, I mean, this start and stop, this lack of continuity, do you think ultimately it will impact students, their learning? At that age, the attention span sometimes could be extremely low. At what point do we get a constant flow?
Well, as you know, we're still in the pandemic. A constant flow at this time is not going to happen anytime soon. Our classes are already filled as it is. Some of our schools have classes that have 40 students in a class, and based on the regulations, it's supposed to have 50% out, right, per class. So then, to tell you the truth, I don't see it happening anytime soon. We had a good thing going online, right? Teachers were teaching online. They were providing feedback. Students were able to go back into the Google Classrooms or whatever online
I mean, we have to agree that the online scenario, as much as you say to the nation here that a good thing was happening online, there were still many who had no access and who were literally being lost in this online learning scenario. So I'm thinking here that the face-to-face and the physical interaction back in the physical space called school might be the step in the right direction, but ultimately I'm looking at the structure and the way going forward. But I know that you all are governed by some of the rules being handed down by central government, more so the Ministry of Health. So I know it's not just a tutor thing or a Ministry of Education thing, but I'm just hoping that at some point, I'm hoping we can get back to normalcy. Because when we look at our neighbors in Antigua and other parts of the region, students are back out to school, from primary right up to secondary.
Yeah, but if you look at our schools, the infrastructure of our schools, we have a lot of schools that have pre-COVID issues that have not been fixed, right? A number of schools visited, their water pump wasn't working. Some had sewer issues. One, the ceiling was caved in and repairs only would have started yesterday. That kind of thing.
Yeah, so that is unacceptable. That is unacceptable.
Yes.
Yeah, to know we have had all this downtime, and were you telling me work started yesterday in one of the schools?
Yes, work started yesterday. And the thing is that the ministry would have put things in place so that principals could report the issues. Principals have tickets for so it's like a carnival fete, but no work is being done. So when you submit your claims, your complaints, you get a ticket, so you're in a waiting line and they will contact you when the contractor is going to come to have this problem solved. But they have tickets that are not being attended to. And then the ministry is saying that the schools are ready. Schools have not received supplies for sanitizing of the schools, right? Some of the, some large schools would have received 1 or 2 scanners. So you could imagine the lag time at the gate with these large schools, when the students are coming out.
Let me ask you
because to process everyone.
Let me ask a question. Back in at least before COVID BC, assembly was used to give an address to the entire school population. What is being used at this point in time is the assembly from your investigations yesterday and moving around still. Is this still applicable in this current situation?
Well, what was happening is that those schools that have the PA systems will do the assembly from the office, and it will carry through the system for the entire school, right? But in some schools, you're not able to do that because the system isn't working. Yesterday, I went to a school, the bell wasn't working. They tried to get it rectified, but that was a wait and see thing. We have the primary schools who have not received direct funding for quite a while, but yet they are expected to do miracles in terms of having the students out, having all of these sanitizers, etc. And we know that principals are dipping into their pockets to make these things happen.
Wow, interesting developments indeed. Before we wrap things up, I want to find out, you mentioned some of the concerns and the reasoning for students not coming out yesterday would have been within the realm of transport. Is that something that you consider fixable? Like, I mean, obviously it must be rectified soon. What's happening with the transport scenario, and more so the school feeding? I understand that the students are indeed getting their lunch as per usual.
School, yes, they did get, well, when I got there, they had received breakfast.
Fantastic.
And yes, and lunch. I imagine that the ministry is probably waiting to look at figures to call out the maxis as they usually would do in times past. But we also have students who are away from school because they have started to work, because the pandemic has not been easy on some families, and the bigger ones would have to go out to work to help sustain the family.
So what's going to happen to those children? I mean, obviously, school is back, and I mean, if they already start to work, start to taste money, see for themselves what's happening, you know, it's kind of tough to get them back in the system.
Yes, well, the school would have to do the outreach initially and send in the names to SSSD, and they would have to do the follow-through to see how best they can bring the children back into the system.
Before we wrap things up, KADY, I just want to find out from you on a personal note, despite the problems, despite some of the issues quite glaring for most of us, are you still optimistic considering where we are and how far we have come at this point in time?
Well, to be quite honest, based on what is happening, yesterday in one of the schools I visited, a primary school, one teacher had so many students, she had to divide them up into 3 classes, 3 separate classes. How she's to manage teaching those 3 classes, we're unsure. So I am not sure that what the ministry intends to achieve with this bringing out of students at this point in time would be achievable, right? Tutor maintains that the ministry has insisted that all teachers return to the face-to-face, right? In a circular issued on the 31st of January, right? They said that we go back to pre-COVID conditions. So that means we are to operate strictly within our terms and conditions, and all emergency engagement must cease at this time. That means no online classes, no asynchronous, synchronous work, no submission of work online. All of that has to be done with at this time. We go back to the original asynchronous work as we know, and it's called homework. Wow. So we advise our members that if you know that you're dealing with group A today and you're not going to see them for the next 2 days, give them enough work, practice exercises, assignments to keep them engaged until you see them again, and you would review and give feedback then.
Yeah, enough homework at least, because there are students who are home today, no physical class, and they have, well, again, no Zoom class, and some of them could literally be home just twiddling their thumbs or online playing games. So I understand what you're saying.
That has been happening right through the pandemic. But what I'm saying, anything else for if teachers engage in anything else, we would be on a very slippery slope.
Yes.
Because we have experienced what SBA has brought to us, where we went to the courts and the court told us, well, you know, essentially you've been doing it for so long, so it's part of your job. So we advise our members, do not straddle both systems. You're back out to face. The minister made it clear we're back to pre-COVID conditions. So you are to teach those who are in front of you, provide sufficient homework for when they are not, and we work from there. Just one thing I would want to also mention, online roll is not a thing anymore. You have to account for the students in front of you, right? Those who are not in front of you, you just have to put not on this rotation or what have you, but teachers are not responsible for those online registers anymore because we are back in the face-to-face realm.
But really quick, because I'm actually hearing here from one of our colleagues in studio that their child is actually required this morning to log in online and do the rule. I mean, that's a word just coming in there. No classes, no physical classes, but they're required to log in and just do an online rule.
No, but we keep telling the teachers, and I wanted to again tell our members, if it is you put a child present who is not in front of you, if anything happens to that child on that day, God forbids, you will be held responsible. You can only account for those who you see in front of you.
Okay.
Colleagues, I urge you, please do not fill out the role for students who are not in front of you.
Okay. Ms. Beckles, I want to thank you this morning. Great conversation. I really enjoyed our discourse. And let's see how things pan out in the days, weeks, and months ahead.
Yes, definitely.
For sure.
Thank you for having me.
That's right, General Secretary there of Tutor. That is KADY Beckles. Up next, the successful and winning candidate out of the Debe South by-elections last evening, Kemraj Sicharan, the UNC candidate, victorious candidate. He joins me next. Stick around.